I'll open it up for any questions, anything that you've got, a question on what we were talking about, or maybe something else.
Hi, I'd like Dean Klippenstein, MNP. I'm not a grower any longer, but as far as everyone's up in arms talking about, I don't want you to have my data and I want my data, and we all actually just make noise out of our mouth. We really don't know what that means. What I'd like to at least talk about is the debate occurring when we were down on holidays in Florida. Because Google had my data, excuse me, because Google had my data and had everyone else's data on that road, or many people, it allowed them to change my route to the fastest to avoid traffic delays. I mean, that's a positive of people having my data. Talk to me about the debate that's occurring that my data is restricting and might be costing us opportunities to improve our farm for no detriment.
Yeah, so here's what we're looking at, and I didn't get into it in the AFS Connect side of it, but all your information will be sitting up there. It's yours, password protected, it's your information. We can't get into it unless you give access to see that type of thing. There are third parties that are developing out there, they call them APIs, just interfaces that will know the string, and they can go in and they can feed it automatically into a software package. Or you can even do cloud-to-cloud communication, so the AFS Connect cloud can talk to the Farmer's Edge cloud or the Climate cloud or whoever is out there. And the machine information, it's a little more robust, because now you got machine speed, all that, instead of just agronomy like yield maps going into it. So you can make a much more feature-rich product. So to answer your question, we want to leave it up to you on what you want to do to utilize the information. Where do you want it to go? It's there. What approvals, what information, or do you think it's a good idea if we could do something like, you know, have a contest with combines to see who could fine-tune the combine the best to get the best throughput, speed, and all the settings on it for wheat. And then you could opt into that, and then the information would come off the cloud and use what you're working with. What we also do is, let's say you've got a plot, a seed plot, and you want to share that with your agronomists. Now, in the old days, we had the good old CN1 folder, and I know there are people in this room that are going to absolutely cringe when I say CN1 folder, because it was hard to deal with. And I'm standing up here with the company telling you that because I had to deal with it all the time. It was hard to work with. Now we've got the level where we can go down to the field and say, I only want to share this field, I only want to share harvest data, I only want to share it with this agronomist at this address for the next 3 days. And it'll automatically allow that to go in there and then shut it off when it's done. So now you can manage this a lot better with working with it, but it's your decision at the end of the day of, is this something that's going to bring value to my operation? And I think of it a lot of times similar to like the financial industry with banks. My checking account's in there. I don't want anybody to see my checking account, but there are people that I want to connect to with that account that I can set up, and it can be automated as I go through that. Or an investor, if I have a relationship with that, I can tie him so he can go in and keep information and stocks and so forth.
Yeah, okay. So the growers in the room, don't automatically assume the data being just ours is better for us. I think there's lots of opportunity for that to be shared in the industry, to make massive improvements on productivity when you talked about those comparisons. Yeah. So thank you.
You notice that I've been talking agronomy and the yield and all that. The machine information, a lot of that will go back to a central database with all companies. Already does with all our automobiles. Because we want to see, is there a problem and something that we can step into in Racine at the Magnum plant, because we're not torquing a head down far enough and it's causing a problem with a seal, and we can go right to that line and we can make an adjustment on what we need to do with that particular tool that's doing that job. Those types of things to keep warranty, just build a better product flat out, is something that we'll do. We don't care where the tractor is in the world. We just want to see the machine information and what's going on with it, so that we can know that these 5, 10, 15,000 engines that are exactly the same, are they performing the way we want them to? So that's another way to use that. Yes, sir.
Hi, Stephen Vandervolk, farm in southern Alberta. We have some 50 series combines on order, and the big thing for us is malt barley. Have you have you entered the automation in for barley yet? I know you have it for wheat, but they're telling me they're going to have it for 19. I just wasn't sure if you knew the answer.
Probably will. So, yeah, the harvesting group, if you're interested in that, I can find you an answer. I don't have it for you right now because I just don't know how they're bringing on and what they're bringing on with those. The major crops were the ones they set up on that, obviously, but all of them are on the docket to work through and get the settings proper for that. So before I get out of here, give me your name and I'll find out from the harvesting group. In fact, the guy that's in charge of North American harvesting is also my boss, so I can find that answer. Yes.
Thanks for your presentation. Levi Wood, I'm from Southern Saskatchewan. Full disclosure, I don't have red combines, I have another brand, but when I look at these levels of automation, it seems to me that every time we go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, it takes the number of sensors on the equipment, not just up 10%, it's up 100%. On my farm, one of the biggest aggravations is the downtime that's coming from the sensors on the equipment, not mechanical.
Yep.
And so I get, I think as farmers, we all understand a piece of metal's broken on your machine, you got to fix it. But it's the leap of faith or the understanding that, these sensors are holding up,
Yep.
What in many cases is a very expensive piece of machinery. Do you see that technology evolving so it's more reliable?
Yeah, something that's happening also along the same line, and I think you saw it in one of the slides there, was the artificial intelligence.
Right.
So what happens with that is, and we've done 2 tests with this, where the machine actually will start asking, or giving you, hey, this sensor doesn't look like it's performing, or it's blinking on and off, or the power doesn't seem, the voltage is wrong. What it's going to happen with that is it's going to automatically, if it's not getting something, it's going to ask for something to be looked into on that machine because the sensor may be going bad. It's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll see them, but that doesn't mean that we have to wait for total failure. What we can do is hopefully have them come in and start to ask for, there's an 80% chance that this sensor is getting, check and see if a mouse was in there chewing on the wire because the voltage doesn't seem right, or whatever the case might be.
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah, AI is going along with this so that you're also building a machine that can ask or tell you what's wrong with it before you even get out there.
Yeah. And then it appears from your videos, if nothing else, that as a company, you're looking at, sort of merging this technology into existing equipment. You had the Quadtrac that's autonomous. Do you see when we get to the full autonomy, there's a couple schools of thought. One is, do we stay at the big stuff and have that all autonomous, or do you have 10 smaller tractors pulling smaller equipment?
Yep.
Where, as a company, do you see a direction there? Is there one area you're going to or working on?
If I took you right into the company, I don't think they've thought about that yet.
Okay.
But put my agronomist hat on and working in the field and working with farmers, I think it's going to get smaller. I think we're at probably as large of machines that you're going to see in agriculture. And this is coming from somebody that's going to watch a Steiger a little later this year, a 700 horsepower Steiger be introduced. I mean, it's just too big. I mean,
Yeah.
we can't fit them in the fields. Wide open ones, you guys, everybody, all of us have fields that it works in, but we also have fields that the stuff just doesn't fit. And what I would say is that you're going to see multiple machines maybe going from, a 48-row planter down to a 16-row planter and have 3 of those or 4 of those and keep those running in that fashion so that you can cover more ground and fit the configurations of what we deal with day in and day out instead of having these massive machines.
Yeah, right. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Hi, Gunter Jochum. I farm in Manitoba, just west of Winnipeg. We've got a rainbow farm. That means we've got a Case sprayer, John Deere tractor, AGCO tractor, Claas combines.
There's lots of you folks out there.
So that being said, the manufacturers are addressing the labor needs on farms. What are they doing about addressing the labor needs to service the equipment when it's down? In other words, when a sensor goes or a computer
Yep.
glitch, it doesn't matter which shop I talk to, that they're all starving for qualified labor, and they have one good tech guy.
Yep.
Well, he's swamped or she is swamped. The other guys that they have are good at pulling wrenches, but it's a diagnosis problem.
Yeah. So, and I didn't touch on it, I had it on one of the slides up there, but this remote sensing or remote viewing, being able to step into that machine no matter where it is in the world, as long as you've got cellular connection, and I know that is an issue in a lot of parts here and so forth, but that's going to get answered too, because the satellite is coming along very, very quickly, being able to connect with that. But these, you don't have to have a dealership with a service truck to step in there and drive all the way out 4 hours just to reset something and then drive 4 hours back to get it done. The new Magnum that we're going to introduce, which is the first of the new platform that you'll see rolling out over the next few years, actually allows, you can go in there and we can do file over the air transfer, so we can load the firmware in these tractors that are 10 hours away just over the air, and we can bring them up. And the implements, if they're plugged into it and they've got the ECUs on that, it'll go through the network on the CAN, and it'll update those also. So what we're looking for in our dealerships is two things. One is maybe we can reduce the number of vehicles and labor that are out there chasing down things that don't really mean anything. So your star tech isn't tied up making a long drive to something that he could have fixed if he could have seen the screen and told the guy to change a value on there. So we want to be able to step into that vehicle and be able to see either remotely, and if we find something wrong, we can do the updates right over the air quickly. So trying to free up these people, make them more efficient. And then the other thing that the dealers have to do, they have to do their part, is put together plans to work with you to maintain your vehicles. You know, we all know if we stay right with the letter of the law and maintain the oil changes and the filter changes and get all the grease, everything's done right to the letter of the law, a lot of times you have a much more success in keeping the vehicle doing what it needs to outside of issues that may happen just with manufacturing and machines breaking down or whatever. So, yeah, trying to free them up. Yes, sir.
Ken Posberg, we farm at Humboldt, Saskatchewan. I'm just kind of curious, as we keep going down this road of autonomous vehicles, are you starting to get any pushback as far as government and regulations as far as what they're going to allow? And do you think you're going to have any issues as far as commonality between different countries and how all that's going to get implemented?
Yeah, it's crazy. So the laws, as you cross borders all over, and you get over to Europe, and it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. Just think about it. You know, what do we have here? We've got, in Canada, you've got basically 3 languages that you deal with. You got the French, and then you've got the English, and then probably some Spanish in areas. And I don't know, on the farms, some Chinese or whatever, but you've got those labor pools that are out there. But everybody really understands in North America that English kind of lays it down there. Go over to Europe. We release a tractor out there, and the very first thing we have to do is put it into 29 languages, the manual, and on the display. And these things, folks, are no further than me driving back to where I live in Milwaukee. You've got 29 countries within that distance in there with different languages. It's a nightmare.
So do you think that, I mean, it's one thing for on the road as far as regulations go, but do you foresee a time that they're going to start having regulations as far as how these vehicles are going to be allowed to function within your own field?
Yeah, probably more with the timing, when you're going to see that you can transport these, move them in the middle of the night. You know, if they're autonomous, there may be windows that you set it out that regulation may come in with something like that. I always, tongue-in-cheek, I always say, well, I want just a slightly smoked cab window, and I want the seat shaped like a human being. And I think just driving down the road looking like it, you just kind of can see that guy in there and it's okay, that'd be fine. But I hope, yeah, regulation is a big thing. Good point. Yes.
Hi, Fiona Yoakum from St. Francis Xavier. That is my father over there. As autonomous equipment becomes more important for the ag industry, do you see a time where actually the tractor is completely eliminated and we just have autonomous seeders, autonomous tillage equipment? Like, has Case thought about that? How would that affect your business? Is that something you would invest in more?
I think it's just going to be an evolution. A good point is the grain cart There is no reason that you need a tractor on a grain cart. You just need a self-propelled grain cart that will go out and visit, you know. In fact, 20 years ago when I was with Caterpillar, we were working with an autonomous grain cart. And what that was you don't have to drive all the way up the field. If you know the grain that's coming off the vehicle, you know where it is, you can do and I had a guy that was in charge of the steel going into the plants for Caterpillar that was on this team. And he reversed it. He said, I think I can use that same equation of when I need 6 sheets of steel at the cutter, but I'll reverse it so that I need to know where that grain cart needs to sit and exactly the moment when that combine needs to dump. So he worked that, and by darn it worked. He had it in there, and so we could just take from the semi, and this grain cart would go out and just sit at a site, combine would do its work, and when he got to that, it was full, and it would empty and just go back. So you're not compacting the soil, you're not driving all over the field. It's a planned system that's out there. When I saw that is what I saw there is we just need a motorized little unit that's just gonna take the grain from the vehicle to the edge of the field and dump it or wherever it needs to go. So I fully think, and I think we had some conversations last night about the DOT robotic system. There's going to be a platform out there probably that you can hang things on that go out and do it. So you're going to put your planter units on it, you're going to put your sprayer units on it, you're going to put whatever, and it's just going to go out and do its business. And it's not going to be a real big piece of equipment. It's just going to go out and it's going to do its work. I fully think that that's the way that it's going to go. Good question.
Hello, Jared Gust, farmer from Davidson, Saskatchewan. Question about, or sort of coming from Kenton's, or leading forward from Kenton's question, was the assumption of liability. We all get in our tractors, first thing we hit when we turn it on is fire up the auto steer, the GPS, and stroll to the bottom. I accept that if this crashes into, it's my fault. If they're autonomous or things go sideways, where was this all gonna go? Like our insurance policies, our farm liability, if you say it's gonna work, is case assuming liability?
Yeah, it's, to be honest with you, that's one of the big questions of why it's not, you know, that's the issue, that why it's not going as fast as it is. It's not that we can't do it. We can do it. But it's all of the hurdles that you've got to go through to make it safe as you're going through. Is it going to happen? I can point you to no further than the auto market right now and working in cities, and you've got autonomous vehicles and Ubers and all that working.
The environmental liability, we almost would have to get better.
Yep. No, those are all questions that, believe me, that our legal team asks over and over and over again, you know, and it's got to be studied. But, yeah, if you're not in a controlled environment, that's the problem, and that slows down advancing technology.
Curtis Sims from McGregor, Manitoba, near Portage la Prairie. We talked last night.
Yes,
We had
we did for a
great
long
visit.
time.
Yeah.
Good conversation.
Just a suggestion. I'm older, all our crew is much younger. They're good at these things. But one of the systems we use, it gives the appearance it's been added to and added to and added to. It's not that great at cross-referencing data back into your documentation and your machine, and you have to go 4 different places to try and, or maybe it was only 3, can't remember. I get the young guys to come over and give me a hand sometime. It was just a suggestion for your company. Somewhere in your team of all the electronics, make sure you have at least one gatekeeper that doesn't like electronics much. He absolutely insists that this has to be simple, this has to be easy, you know? And not just because I'm older either, but if you are extending your labor situation, we get the paradox where the machines are supposed to be smarter to run themselves, but the operator needs to be smarter enough to set the machines to set the, you know.
So we've got a group, and they're called product validation. And most of us in the company hate product validation because it just slows everything down. And if they find a glitch or they can't understand something or it doesn't work, it's got to go all the way back and they've got to start over again and get it going. In fact, I can tell you a real life scenario. We want to be this ISO compliant. 2 of our little icons on our new screen that we're going to show next week were not the proper configuration to the ISO standards for the world. So we're just about ready to launch this thing. We got to go back, and we found this out, what is today? Wednesday? Found this out Monday evening, that we have to go in and change those two icon screens. Yeah, the button still works, it's not gonna be that hard, but we gotta go in and redo to the standard those particular buttons. And we didn't know that until it went through the validation process. So there is a lot of this, but I see also what you're saying is, and we do take it out to operators and get in here, give us a case and what you're doing. Now, I'm gonna surprise you here. Some of our best testers are people that are my age, you know, I'm 57 and older, because they're very particular in what they're working with, and they can go in and see what's happening, and they are the ones that are real careful, versus the younger people who just automatically know how to swipe and they just adopt this stuff, which is a very big question that I don't think any of our companies, my cohort here in the front with John Deere, or us with Case, or whoever, that has really hit us yet, is that a lot of this technology is coming along, but we, I don't think, have a real good grasp on the people that are now in the cabs of those vehicles. The younger generation is now there, and they expect to have this type of technology with the pinch and the swiping and you know, basically what you got on an iPhone in the cab that they're gonna run, and they can go forward with it. I don't think that our company as a whole has really figured that out yet, that not only are the machines changing, but the people that are in the seats are also changing, and it's a whole different game. And that's just something to keep your eye on. And I always, when I was doing consulting, I was right next to Iowa there, and that Iowa was basically a very hard state to do any type of business in. And the reason was they owned the land 100%, there was no leased land in Iowa, and the average age of the farmer, and I'm dating myself back into mid to late 90s, was 65. So when the yield monitors were coming in, that was a very hard state to sell the yield monitors in, because the older generation didn't want to do it, and they still owned the farms that were in there. And then we got to a point, and it almost overnight just flipped. But talking to all these younger guys in there, they were always, you know, when Dad hands the farm over, I'm going to be back to talk to you. That was the one thing he was doing. So I think that switch has come, and we're just not into it yet. So.
With respect on that comment, there also on the farms in terms of labor supply, pardon me, in some cases a father-son, but often enough it's somebody else that's older, is retired from another job, they're 60 or whatever it is, yep. And they're an important part of the labor source now too. So if you have a farm with 3 machines the same, I guess the young guy sets them all yep. the same or whatever, but so, still, you've got a dichotomy going a little bit. Not so many in the middle, but you've got, yep. a little bit of that going on. Anyway.
All the machines, all the operations are important out there. And believe it or not, the soil command that I showed you, who's always put into the tillage tractor? It's the guy the new guy. You're gonna figure it out there. Things are just not set up right, but he's in the tillage tractor, and just leave me alone. I got stuff to do. We're gonna be planting. We're gonna do this. You go out and you just go back to the back, 160 acres and till it. Well, the fact of the matter is, we're finding that operation is very important, and we need to be able to automatically set that vehicle up so that we can leave a seed bed in there. And that's one of the things that's coming back from talking with people. We didn't know how important that thing was, that operation. It was always just the guy that we kind of wanted to put somewhere and get out of the way for a period of time to do the tillage tractor. And the fact of the matter is that's probably one of the more important steps out there that we need to watch. So I've taken more of my time than needed, Dave, so I think that's everything. Any other questions? If not, I'll be here until about 11, and then I got to get going and head back, but that's about when you guys are going to be heading out for your field trip. Thank you very, very much for allowing me to come in and talk to you. I hope you found a little bit of information that was useful.